My name is ChromeDrake, and welcome to this Let's Play for Sorcerer King. What is Sorcerer King? What is this strange world in which you find yourself? Sorcerer King is an asymmetric 4x fantasy strategy game from the good people at Stardock. It is a game that has already been played, the war has already been won, and the titular Sorcerer King is the victor. In his apparent benevolence, however, he has left one city from each surviving race, each remnant alive. What has brought on this fantastic act of altruism? Is he truly interested in peace? The truth, my friends, is far more sinister than that. The Sorcerer King aspires to godhood, and to do this, he will drain the very essence, the very souls and life force of every living thing upon the world of Elemental, to attain and ascend to godhood. However, all is not lost. We will be playing the Kingdom. We alone are the sole being, the sole remnant, who can feel the Sorcerer King tugging at the frayed edges of our soul. We know what he's trying to achieve, and it falls to us to stop him and save the world, or perhaps even subvert him and ascend to godhood in his stead. For when one is a deity, to whom do we truly have to answer? And with all that said, I would like to offer just a small disclaimer before we truly begin, and that is this. This game is fantastically written and has some brilliant quest text. I have found myself laughing on more than one occasion. I will be trying to act out this quest text to the best of my abilities, so please expect a hefty hunk of ham served with a sizable side-ordered slice of cheese as we go into this Let's Play. If you can handle this, if you have the constitution and the stomach to suffer through such an experience, then please join me as we now go into the world of the Sorcerer King. And here we are on the character select screen. At the time of this recording of this Let's Play, I played roughly just over 40 hours, despite what it might have said on the main menu. I'm absolutely positive it has been a bit longer than that. As you can see, I have elected to play the Tinkerer for the purposes of this Let's Play, a master craftsman who spent much of his life studying the forge of the Overlord. He now wields it with great skill, benefiting all the soldiers and servants of his realm. Now, I have played through playthroughs as the Wizard and the Tyrant and the Guardian on the campaign and 2 hard mode games, respectively. The Wizard, as you might expect, is a master of magic, and his special ability is hypnotism. Now, the target enemy has a chance to switch sides, which is a lot more powerful than it sounds. That is a permanent... Well, if you manage to cast hypnotism successfully, you can permanently recruit just about any unit in the game to your army. And in this game of post-apocalyptic adventuring, really, especially when you have logistical concerns, this is amazing. The Tyrant, production boost, he also uses Doomsday as a sort of a resource, and we'll get onto Doomsday when we get into the game. And the Guardian is, by any other name, a druid, a very defensively focused caster. So all of these classes have their own special abilities. They will have their own spellbook spells, which this does a very poor job of showing you here. They will have different spells they can research in their spellbooks, and they have their own unique armies, though these adventurers will become available to us later on in the game. So we're going to go with a Tinkerer. I could customize him, but we'll just go with as base. We shall play on a random world. We've already got the settings here. Random world, small. The hard difficulty, which I find is a very nice balance point for a game I like to play. It's still got some challenge, but it's not insanely difficult, which is what this would be up here. I do hope to perhaps advance to this in a future Let's Play, but we'll see how that goes. Everything else normal. And finally, we have to choose our rivals. Now, this is an interesting setup here that the game has pre-selected for us, in that the Ice Lords and the Frozen Realm, so these sort of Yeti-type creatures and these dwarves, yes, they don't like each other very much. Now, these rivals are the remnants of the civilizations that have survived the last Great War. Now, we can try and ally with them. We can try and diplomatically get ourselves into a favourable position and glean their help versus the Sorcerer King. But if we were to, say, gain the help of the Ice Lords, the dwarves would shun us immediately. The dwarves and the Ice Lords don't get on, and there are several racial differences. Yeah, all of these factions have their own difference. Now, what I like to... Oops, no, I'm changing the difficulty. What I would like to do is put all of these onto random. I much prefer not to know what I'm getting myself into ahead of time. So there we are. We're going to leave them on normal difficulty. So they will be at a slight disadvantage, though these races are not actively trying to win the game. They are simply trying to survive, so they could be a help or a hindrance, but ultimately the game is between myself and the Sorcerer King. Hence, asymmetric 4x. And here we are, loading in. Aha! And we begin. The Forging of Drolg. You are Drolg, craftsman of Attica. A member of the order which tend the forge of the Overlord, your ability attracted the attention of the Sorcerer King himself. He taught you much about crafting, and led you to a position of power. But he has something sinister planned for this world, and you could tell a conflict was brewing. How did you prepare? So, I have played through this once before. I did have a little look at the Tinkerer, sort of yesterday, in fact, just to make sure I had a vague idea of where I was heading. So we're going to go with what I picked then, but obviously we have got different options. I collected crafting supplies, I collected recipes, or I crafted a rare artifact. Now, being a tinkerer, I feel it's very flavorful to say we crafted a rare artifact. Doing what you do best, you retreated to the Forge of the Overlord to work on materials for the coming war. With the economic restrictions placed on your realm, ingredients were hard to come by, but you were able to craft one rare artifact that would prove useful. Now we can craft a ring which allows its wearer to see farther, or to learn faster, or to more easily avoid attacks. Now a lot of this game is actually about unit management and leveling. You don't get many units in Sorcerer King, or at least not to begin with, so I think it's very important to level up the units that will be most crucial to us, namely our starting hero, Drogon the Dwarf, so we shall learn faster. Much blood, sweat and other fluids were spilt during the gathering, preparation and theft of the necessary ingredients, but finally, after much effort and a little more fluid spillage, the incredible ring was forged. This has been my greatest work yet. That may or may not be the voice of our Tinkerer as we go into this. I'm going to vary this a great deal. So, the Forging of Drolg. And now the time to set off on your own has come. You must expand your realm, protect the shards of magic, and explore the world. You may find it useful to seek out allies to assist you in your fight, though be wary. They will have designs of their own. Eventually you will have to confront the Sorcerer King himself and halt his evil plans once and for all. And such is our quest laid out before us. We start with +1 fame. These are sort of like abstract social values that affect certain random events that pop up in the game. These aren't really game-changing events, but they provide nice bonuses or small negatives and sort of reflect how we're interacting with the world at large, which is quite nice. And we also have the Ring of the Tutor recipe and the Ring of the Tutor. It stands to reason that having crafted the Ring of the Tutor, we know how to craft it in the future as well. So, fantastic. As we can see, a +25 experience percent bonus percent. I don't know quite why that's been arranged like that, but there we go. Okay, we're going to go with the standard naming convention, and excuse me, we're going to go with the standard naming convention the game sets down for this Let's Play, Attica. And this is the game world. So what do we have? Now, this is interesting. We've actually started near enchanted terrain. That'll be very useful later, but I will explain why at a later date. So, what we have? We have treasure chests, which are sort of like goodie huts. You basically get crafting materials from treasure chests. The crafting system is extremely elegant. I've not come across a crafting system in very many other games which are like, yeah, this is great, this is easy. I'm actually enjoying this crafting system. It's usually not my thing, but in this game it's done very well. Now we also see that we start next to a shard of power. Build a shrine here to gain mana, lore or sovereign XP. Resources must be within your territory before being built. Now, shards are extremely important. Think of shards as vaults of knowledge, as the source of the world's magical power. And we need to gain these, we need to exploit these shards to level up. If you see over here in our Manage Magic section, we are currently generating, 1 skill point a turn, 1 mana point a turn, and 1 lore point a turn. Skills dictate your nation's technology level, or basically we'll find that under sovereign abilities. So sovereign abilities are sort of analogous with technology. And And we have a whole tree here that we can go down. We'll explore this in a bit. Mana is how many magical points we accrue each and every turn to forge our spells, or cast our spells. And lore is how quickly we research. Now and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the shrine with this wonderful ear-splitting sound effect. I'll edit that out for you guys, you're so lucky when I actually do the editing later. And we can build a shrine. Now it takes 1 logistics. Logistics are required to train units, build outposts, or to build on resource tiles. Build special ability city improvements to get more. So logistics are incredibly important because they dictate how many units and how many special buildings we can have. But for -1 logistics we get +5 magic. Absolutely no-brainer, we need to do this. The shard is yours. So we have +2 sovereign skill points as a little bonus because that's actually a quest that we completed, I believe, if we look in reports. Yes. Active quests, here we go. Defeat the Sorcerer King, build an outpost, liberate a monster lair, expand your empire, and break a champion's curse. We'll get into that in a bit, but as we can now see, we've gone up to 2.6 and 2.7 points respectively in all of these skills, because those 5 points have now been split down. And this is the basic way in which we increase our research speed. This first video is going to be rather explanation heavy for any of you good folks out there who don't know what this game's about, so I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. This medium village is an adventuring site. We'll also find warlock huts and inns and taverns scattered around the world that provide us with a lot of interesting adventuring options. We're going to explore up here to begin with, and this is our army. Now then, Drogon the Dwarf is our hero. We also have an Arctic Wolf and an Arctic Wolf Cub. We can see that every unit has their own equipment. They have their own equipment slots. And speaking of which, I'm going to equip the Ring of the Tutor to Drogon right now. And every unit has got their own stats. Initiative, attack, accuracy, all of this stuff, and their own skills, which we'll talk about as we sort of progress to a point where it's worthwhile. And this particular unit's Drogon the Dwarf's heroic skill tree. So very similar to the Sovereign skills, though we will be leveling him up and making him a fighter worthy to be, worthy to reckon, or worthy to fight against the Sorcerer King himself. And we'll just get them moving. So we found items in chests. The +1 health regeneration refers to abilities that we can use to enchant our gear. Now, being a tinkerer, we have the ability to enchant our gear from the off, which is very interesting to me. I didn't realise this when I initially took the tinkerer, though it does make sense. Most other races, sovereigns have got to start up into this, but we do not. So that's a nice little perk. Now, speaking of which, here's something I always forget to do when I start a new game. You can see we have our transmutation spell, our unique here. But when I start a new game, you always start off with the Bountiful Harvest spell, adds +3 food to the target city. And why is that important? If you look at our city, we have a food resource, a production resource, we have an essence resource, and thralls. Food determines how quickly our city will level up. So it's an important thing to get your city's zone of control to expand and all sorts of other things and get more bonuses. So we need this to be raised as fast as possible, especially in the early game. And before I forget, Bountiful Harvest, boom! And we can now see that our city's food resource has increased dramatically. Production, or the amount of hammers, how quickly you can build things. Essence, now this is unique to the starting city in the sense that normally you need to have enchanted terrain, which is this, inside your zone of control, which you can see it clearly is not. But your starting city starts with 1 essence for an enchantment from the off, which is a nice little bonus that you get. And thralls, the higher the Doomsday counter, the more citizens surrender their will to the Sorcerer King. Each thrall consumes 1 logistics point. Very important. So the Doomsday counter, in brief, is the progress towards casting the spell of making. So if this gets all the way up, we lose the game. So we do not want this to happen. Now, to begin with, we are going to build a garden in the city. Increase food by +1 per city level. Now, I have actually been wondering whether or not it's beneficial to get the garden first, or to get the scout first. Because either way, I'd probably want to build the garden and then build the scout, so that we can see basically where it's most efficient to send our heroes. I think actually, believe it or not, leveling up the heroes early game, I'm going to try this, is more important, so I'm going to build a scout first. It's going to take 8 turns. And we need to research a spell. Every time we research a spell, we'll have basically, effectively 8 random spells to choose from. I think you get more uncommon and rare spells the more you research, but the spell choice seems to be pretty random in flavour, which I don't mind at all. It gives you choices every single time. Now then, what are we going to research? We could go for an early Nature's Bounty, because we are going to get Enchanted Terrain pretty early. Unless we want to extend towards this crystal. That's an interesting conundrum, actually. Hang on a minute. It's saying I've picked a spell to research. This is a lot. You know what? Apparently, I clicked something and didn't mean to. So we are going to research healing, which takes the choice completely out of my hands. I'm perfectly happy with this, to begin with. So we're going to explore... Oh, we found some recipes. Band of the Berserker. The Cleric's Ring. All interesting. We'll have a look at those later. And we shall move on up to these adventuring sites. You can see here that our units have got a move value of 3. Each regular terrain type only costs 1 movement to move through. Trees, on the other hand, and other more difficult types take 2 movement per turn to move through. So it's worth remembering. And here we go into the Abandoned Village. Now this is a weak adventure, which usually means there's no combat involved, although I have been caught out by that in the past, so... Please don't touch the evil. The streets are strewn with blood and body parts. In a severed hand, you find a notebook. In a severed hand, you find a notebook which explains that someone found a relic in a nearby graveyard and returned with it, only for the other villagers to grow violent with jealousy at his new wealth. The relic, a deformed skull, sits in the middle of town, mocking you. This is an evil you can't leave in the open. So I could take it back to the graveyard it came from, or leave it where it is. I'm going to be somewhat altruistic and take it back to the graveyard. You carefully pick the relic up, stuff it into a nearby empty chest, and head into the hills. As you can clearly see, we are heading into the hills. Marvellous. Do you dare enter the graveyard from whence this relic came? I don't know, actually, because there's no difficulty marker on that, so we'll have to see what happens. We'll go up this way for the chest. Excellent, that's nice. And we've also found a lost library. And it also seems that our Sovereign has leveled up, so here's where we get to talk about this. So here you can see that our spellbooks here, these are the... Well, it sort of determines which spells we get for research, which is one of the ways in which each Sovereign is distinct, one of the ways they differentiate themselves. But as you can see, we now have this sort of technology tree, this ability tree, that we can go down. So we can craft enchanted maps, which unlock the locations of certain things around the world map. Loot mining, which is if we take a mine, which I can't really show you here, but there are certain mines, like metal and crystal mines, scattered around. They will spawn resources that we can use in our crafting, very important later on. Skilled Craftsman, +1 enchantment slot. This means we can, I think this means that we can enchant items twice, not just once, which later on will be very powerful. Thrifty Potioneers, you retain bottles after unit drinks a potion, quite handy. And Clairvoyance Amulets. Now this is unique in that most of the other Sovereigns will have Clairvoyance spells. So Clairvoyance means you can cast +1 spell in battle. Currently, we can only cast 2 spells in battle. Now, if we equip our units with these amulets, we can cast a further spell in battle. And other Sovereigns get this as a passive bonus, we get this as an item to craft. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Skilled Craftsman, and I want to progress as quickly as possible to Spoils of Victory. More common loot from victorious battles, because the sooner we get this, the sooner it benefits us. And we're going to keep journeying. Don't want to tackle this yet, it's a medium. So we'll go up here. Minor Healing Potion, full of sign, that's always nice. And the Sorcerer King. I require an explanation. Oh dear, here we go with crazy voices, people. Tinkerer. Let's try that again. Tinkerer. Since you first rose up among the ranks of the Forge Servants, I could sense your power. It's why I taught you, why I guided you to your place of power in Attica. I have done much for you, don't you agree? And yet now I see signs of disobedience. The Bane whispers to me, Tinkerer. It tells me you're becoming a threat. The Bane. What is this Bane? Or why are you destroying the shards? I can offer none. The Bane. What is this Bane? Kurgan's Bane is a tool of the gods, the most powerful artifact this world has ever known. It will be our salvation if we heed its advice. It has instructed me to care for the lives of all the people in this world, which I do so with great pleasure. Now then, do your people desire anything? Do we desire anything? We could really use some supplies. We could use... Now, in this case, I know for a fact that logistical help at the start of the game, very important. So this is what we're actually going to go for. But he has sapped a little of our soul in the process. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation, but he's given us a logistician. It's a unit that if we base him in a city will increase our logistics value. Be careful with what you do with your armies, Tinkerer. But very well. I have sent one of my best organisers to your capital. The Sorcerer King, you're a bit of a dick. Alright, and if we have a look at his details, we can see that... Let's do logistics. Excellent. That'll prove very useful, and we shall journey fretfully into the graveyard. You find the graveyard the relic came from. The relic obviously doesn't want to go home and starts wiggling and trying to bite you, but you're a lot bigger than it is, and easily wrestle it back into the crypt from which it came. When you do so, a panel in the crypt wall drops, revealing a powerful sword, a scroll with ancient magic, and a book full of old lore. Now, we could take the sword, that would be... But we don't have a unit that can really use the sword. Weapons can only really be equipped by hero units, not regular infantry. The scroll could be useful, but in this case I'm going to take the lore for a bit of a research boost. As you grab the book, the panel quickly closes, sealing off the other items. Well, that was weird. -4 Doomsday counter, +1 courage, and +50 lore. And we've researched the heal spell. See, it wasn't so daft after all. And this will certainly help us to sustain our units in the future. What are we going to pick next? We could get tutelage, but we've already got the ring. Harvest Mountain could be useful later, not so much now. Terraforming and actually creating, more importantly to me, creating pathways through places, very, very good. However, we're going to get the Summon Bear. Summon units aren't the most powerful units in the game, which kind of surprised me a bit. I'd prefer it if they had a bit more oomph. But the enemy does tend to prioritise summoned units when they're on the battlefield, so it can be very good to stop your own units from getting smashed. Let's see. I'm going to take the opportunity to take Nature's Bounty early, because we are going to get more enchantment slots very, very soon, so it'll help with the food growth. And then... Cloud Walk is vital for getting your units where they need to be at the appropriate time, so we will be taking that soon. But now is not that time. Blinding Flash? I think Blinding Flash, very, very good defensive ability. And we shall carry on. We'll carry on to the Humble Inn. Now, unfortunately, we are now considered to be a threat by the Sorcerer King. You are a minor nuisance. He will occasionally send spare forces to harass you. And this has spawned a monster den, a Sorcerer King watch post. And he probably won't attack us from this. We're not a big enough threat yet. But it's still a pain in the backside as far as I'm concerned, because it might just be blocking off our ability to settle in this area. Not sure about that, but we'll have to see. Yes, it does. That's a real pain. We'll have to sort that out as soon as we can. Just adventure. Oh, some brigands. Combat 18 versus combat 15. They have a lot of units, but leveling up would be good. Well, we'll sort them out after we've gone through the inn. Aha! The inn that's faulty. The landlord of excuse me. The landlord of this inn is incredibly rude and terribly condescending to you. He gives you one of his worst rooms, implying with a sneer that he's saving his best for an important person who's been in the area. We could leave or we could stay. Well, let's not be having any of that. We're going to leave. This classless behaviour has no place in your realm. You throw your hat on the ground, call the landlord an extremely nasty word, pick your hat up, and leave. You feel good about it. So -4 Doomsday and +1 Honor. Now that's a quest that's quite interesting, because if we had more fame stat, that does actually open up an alternate option, but since it didn't, never mind. Now, at this point, the city has leveled up, and we have a lot of different options. Now, as it turns out, the amount of enchantment areas right here is absurd. This is going to be an absolutely amazing city later on in the game. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this tile here, because we get 5 more hammers in our city, and we get 2 more enchantment slots. I can't really use those yet. Oh, hang on. Yes, that will be fine. But that will also open up these slots later. And what I want to do, and I could pick up this slot, but what I want to do is to get this crystal crag in our area of influence, and I definitely want to pick up this tile next because it has food on it as well. So that's what we're going to do. And Athka is now a much more powerful city. We're going to bring our units down here and have a go at this looter's army. This could prove to be fatal to a couple of our units, but we shall see what happens. Okay, now, first thing I'm going to do is cast a spell. In previous editions of the game, going to Sovereign Cast and casting a spell from our spellbook, as you can see, would have taken this unit's turn. It no longer does. I'm so happy about this. Basically, each unit has got a sort of Sovereign Cast slot, so I think this is a fantastic change, and we are going to summon a bear onto the battlefield, give them something else to look at, and hopefully not hit us too hard. This little wolf cub, however, is very fragile, but we're going to use Howl, which all allied units gets +1 attack for the rest of the battle, and it goes to the bear's turn. Now we don't want them getting +1 attack, so we shall attack the wolf. And the bear, as you see there, has an ability called Maul, and he can attack at an increasing accuracy penalty, but he can just keep hitting until he misses the enemy, and that is very, very strong. Deadly Bite, which is a devastating bite that strikes for double the unit's attack. Not fantastic, or truth be told. In fact, I think we're actually going to get another summoned unit in here to stop the enemy from hurting us too much. It's casting mana, but at the beginning of the game, very worthwhile. Could use Crushing Blow. Now, here's something I'd like to point out early. I'm sorry that this first episode has been quite so heavy with the explanations, but it'll help us going forward into the game, I think, and I won't need to do this quite so much in the future. Well, very little in the future. If we look on the bottom right, we can see that we have an outgoing attack. This is us hitting the enemy. We have a 90% chance to hit, and we will deal to this enemy 6 to 8 damage. And this enemy does not have a counterattack, so he will not retaliate. However, using any ability, using any attack special ability, will always automatically hit the enemy. In the future, this is why you will see me using special attacks to basically twerp the enemy where they stand, even if it doesn't seem necessary, because it's a guaranteed hit. So we'll do that. We'll use our Cleave here to hit multiple targets. Unfortunately, this is a summoned unit, and because we don't have many shards, it's very, very weak right now. It's really there just as cannon fodder. And it's doing its job. I'm very happy to say it's doing its job. Move that up here. Pass the turn. This wolf is going to bleed this enemy. Hopefully that'll die in the following turn. The sword may as well hit you. Ooh, critical blow. Now this game does not have a flanking system per se, but it does have a gang up system. So you will see units get progressively more and more damage the more units are around them. I have not, as of yet, worked out quite how this system works. But I'm sure it does. You know, I'm sure the developers are giving us a nice clean system, so whatever. Basically, big units, gang up as many units as you can around them, it will do serious damage. That's really all I need to know. He bled out. Might need to move that wolf away. He's starting to get a bit damaged. We'll bleed him. And I think we will. We'll move our wolf somewhere a bit more protective and rely on our hero unit to deal the damage. You see, our little wolf cub only does 2 damage. Bless its little heart, but never mind. And we want to take care of this archer. Archers and ranged units on the battlefield do not have a range penalty. They are free to shoot anything on the battlefield. And I don't mind this. It sort of really just makes sure that the... Ah, he dodged. That's a shame. It really just makes sure that the, you know, the battle goes as swiftly as possible. And we could gamble. We could gamble on a swift kill. I think we will. There we go. Excellent. Oh, he dodged. Excellent. Well done, Wolf. Well done. Keep having a go at him. We'll bring you back. There we do, go fire damage. And in general, the combat in this game is actually very fast and furious. This is, oddly enough, one of the longer combats I've done lately, simply because you have to be a bit careful in the beginning. So, hey, we've won the combat. We've got lots of lovely loot. We have leveled up Ooh, we leveled up twice. Fantastic. That ring has really helped us there. That's brilliant. So we get a wolf pelt, silver bands, all sorts of crafting ingredients, and a considerable level up. However, unfortunately, that's all we have time for in part 1 of the Sorcerer King Let's Play. I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope you will continue to enjoy it, and I will see you all in part 2. So, join me then. Catch you later.